Hey everybody, this is Neil here. Welcome to the next lesson in Copy Crash Course. In this lesson, we're going to talk about finding your hook. Okay. Sorry if the audio is a little bit different. I lost my dang nano connector thingy that connects my sweet headset, so I'm going with the regular mic here. So hopefully the audio is working fine for you. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So ways to think about a hook. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of, you need to have a hook. What's your hook? Create a hook. Throughout, doing your marketing and learning from, other people along the way. Easiest way I try to think about it is a headline. Like you see on a sales letter or, a squeeze page or a registration page for a webinar. Those are the types of things that you kind of think about as a hook, right? An elevator pitch in one sentence, maybe two, right? Like I said, headlines, and I'll give you an exact formula you can kind of follow for that in a second here. You want to make sure you appeal to your audience in a split second, okay? When people land on your sales page or your squeeze page or whatever, your website, you need them to get that hook immediately, and it needs to be appealing enough that they want to keep reading more, okay? Like it says there, it has to pique their interest and invite them to learn more, okay? Even though most people can recognize that something is a sales page or a squeeze page, they still want to learn more. They want to read more about, okay, what's this all about, right? And then you can lead that up to your actual offer, okay? Also, your hook is going to be your main theme throughout your message, okay? And what I mean by that is if you think about a sales letter, most sales letters reiterate the main hook several times throughout the sales page, okay? And that's because that's the thing that's going to connect with your customer the most, okay? So you want to make sure you really get your hook dialed in. You want to be thinking about it early on and often, okay? And don't be afraid to tweak it as time goes. The other thing, a little good piece of advice, something I don't like to do is stress myself about it. I like to write down a hook that's decent, that looks like it'll work, and then I play with it over time. I like to give myself time to let things marinate, before I actually let it out to the public or whatever I'm doing with my copy. So just get something that's doable down, and then work it into something awesome, okay? All right, so here's a simple formula that I follow that works really well for creating your hook, okay? First, immediately identify their big ass problem, right? You want to hit, hey, here's your major problem, here's an ideal solution, and the big benefit behind that, okay? If you can hit those three within your one sentence or your 1.5, 2 sentences, then you're good, okay? You really want to drive home, because they're going to identify with, yeah, I do have that problem. Man, I could use that solution, and wow, that benefit would be great, right? And now they're going to want to learn more, okay? So that's going to be the main thing throughout your whole copy. There's going to be one major problem that you're focusing on. There will be sub issues and sub benefits, to talk about throughout the course, but bottom line, this is all about your hook, your headline, okay? Big problem, ideal solution, big benefit, okay? Use words that interest to start off, okay? The first word is very important. It's the word that's going to make them keep reading, okay? Something that I learned not just in copywriting. I've taken a lot of different types of courses throughout my internet marketing career about design and the way psychology works online, different things like that. The eyes move from left to right and down the page, right? So the first thing they're going to read is that first word, and it needs to make them want to keep reading the sentence, okay? I know it sounds minor, but it's really important, okay? So here are just some good examples or good ones that you can run with, and I'll give you an example kind of for each one, okay? So discover how you can do XYZ in this amount of time and save this much money and da-da-da. Or uncover the secret to solving this big ass problem using a simple solution that will give you this awesome benefit, okay? Revealed. Finally, how to get over this problem that nobody's been able to figure out how to get over in 3 simple steps, right? And then, like I said, if you can't fit it all into the hook, like if you can't just, if it's too much to get the big benefit in there or whatever, then you can use your sub headline below that to immediately drive that home, okay? But again, you want to make the hook flow very quickly, very easily. You want them to just digest it immediately, and it should read smoothly, okay? And you should also move them downward down the page. And I'll also cover some of this when we go over the sales letter template a little bit later in the course too. Find out how. So all these words are leading them to that they're going to learn, they're going to find out something, an answer to a question that they have, or a solution to a problem that they have, right? Never again have this problem when you use this simple 4-step formula that allows you to do X, Y, Z and get this benefit, okay? Attention, ideal customer. This is a huge one, right? You're talking directly to them. I used to do this a lot when I would write sales letters for my local marketing products, right? Attention, offline marketers. Then I'd hit the hook, right? And sometimes you can do that like above the hook as a sort of a pre-headline, right? Case study. Case study is a big one that gets people's interest. People are always interested in case study because in their mind they automatically identify that with real-world action, real-world results, and things like that. So case study, how I took da-da-da-da-da and got this result in this amount of time and earned this much money, or lost this much weight, or whatever the case is, right? So those are just a few examples that you can use to start yourself off. Okay. One last thing before actually let me jump back here. One last thing I want to say is if you're writing copy on a regular basis to the same audience or to similar audience, try to mix it up, right? Because people get bored, they see the same thing every time. Oh, it's another thing, right? So you want to try to mix it up as much as you can. All right. Okay, so a good rule of thumb is to write out 5 to 10 versions of your hook to find the one that works best. Like I said, I usually do this. This is the beginning step. It's a lot of times just chicken scratch, and maybe I don't even fully write it out once I can it or whatever. And then I get that one and I say, okay, that works, right? And then okay, now I know what my hook is. I can use that, throughout my copy. And then when you go to actually finalize your copy, you can refine the hook like I was saying, okay? Also, a good strategy to keep from making your hook too long, like I said earlier, is to quickly, I guess I get ahead of myself, is to quickly follow with subheads and bullet points that reiterate the main benefits and so forth. And again, when we go over the sales letter, I'll show you exactly what I mean about that, okay? Start thinking about your hook from the very beginning, and it will come out easier when the time comes. The first couple times I went to do it, I literally racked my brain for days, right? And now when I know I'm going to be making a promotion, I know, okay, I got to find the hook. That's one of the first things I need to be doing. Obviously the market research and identifying my ideal customer and things like that. But again, I'm a little bit more advanced these days. A lot of times I can pinpoint that information very quickly. I already kind of know what the big problem is, what the solution that we're offering is, and the major benefit of that. And then from there, I can flesh out the hook as I go. Sometimes it doesn't come out right away, and hey, I'm okay with that too. I want it to be good, so I'm not going to rush it and do something crappy. Like I said, I'll just get something down that's decent and then build on it from there. So anyways, that's about it for finding your hook. Very, very important part of the process. Make sure that you take some time to do it. If you don't know what your hook is for what you're offering right now, that's why I suggest you sit down and figure out immediately. All right, I'll see you guys on the next video.